Welcome to Powered by Authenticity in episode number 4 of our Western New York Changemaker series. This series was created to highlight the leaders right here in Western New York who are making a real difference, not by following the expected path, but by forging their own. These are the stories that remind us why showing up authentically matters and why Western New York deserves to be showcased on a global stage. And tonight's guest is the perfect example of just that. From banking to charcuterie, which I'm so jealous of, by the way, her journey is one of bold moves, deep passion, and building something meaningful from the ground up. And I am so happy to welcome Kristen Cronyn, founder of Meet and Eat Charcuterie, to the podcast. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
How's it going? How's it going tonight?
Doing great. Great. We're pivoting. We're doing the entrepreneurship pivoting.
We are definitely, I don't know if it's a pivot or a dance at this point in time, but we're doing all the things.
Yes.
Well, welcome. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So born and raised in Buffalo, I have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I grew up in advertising agencies, I would say for maybe 10 years of my career. And I was always around like super creative people. And then my husband at the time quit his job to become a dentist. And I knew that I needed to do something more so for money and benefits. So I felt like I sold my soul for those things versus, following my passion, and ended up at M&T Bank. So I was there as a digital product owner. So I actually launched Zelle and had done some really cool projects. It wasn't banking per se. It was like the fun part of banking.
Yeah.
And um, at that time, it was such a cultural shift for me. I went from, creative to sterile. But at the same time, leverage a lot of my strengths and, my creativity to be able to create my own path at the bank. So I ended up working at the bank for 10 years and ended up becoming the head of internal communications, almost revolutionizing how we communicated internally with our employees, working on fun projects like Zelle, launching those types of digital products. So I really love my job. And I want to make that very clear. It wasn't like a lot of people who go from corporate to entrepreneurship, their souls are getting sucked out and they feel like they need to do something more. For me, this was very fulfilling, but the other side of it took over the corporate component. So during the pandemic in 2020, I was arranging breakfast foods like charcuterie boards for my kids on Saturdays. And I was posting it online and people were just going nuts over them because we had nothing better to do during that time. So I kept posting the pictures. And then a friend of mine asked if I could do a breakfast bread for her bridal party as they were getting ready for the wedding. So I do this beautiful breakfast bread. And the makeup artist that was there asked to book me for her wedding a year later. And I was like, a year from now, am I a business? Like, am I sure I'll put it in my calendar.
Yeah.
Like, it was like shocking to me. Like she wanted to book me for this. And I thought like, is this a thing? Like, can you play with food or style food in a way that's interesting? So I put it in my phone and started to look into it, continued to do it as people were asking me based off of my Instagram posts. And then one night, I had a very vivid dream that I carved the Buffalo skyline out of cheese. And then I did it.
Oh my God.
I woke up and I couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. It was like one of those dreams where you're like, did I actually do this? So I grabbed the Swiss cheese and the Colby Jack and the cheddar, and it just comes out in less than 10 minutes. And it was like a piece of art. Like to date, one of the best things I've ever made. So I posted that on Instagram and that ended up going viral, and I ended up selling 65 boards of just the skyline.
Oh my gosh.
So I was slinging charcuterie just out of my house and trying to keep up
Yeah.
with the demand. From there, I was asked to teach classes. So someone asked me, Shays Performing Arts, the theater, asked if I could teach a class virtually during, to support them during the pandemic. And I was like, you know what? I don't think anyone in Buffalo is teaching charcuterie classes. Why not? Let's try it.
Yeah.
And we had 70 people sign up, and we ended up raising $2,000 for Shays. And in that moment, something ignited in me. And I said, I have to do this again. I have to continue doing this. So from there, I just kept chasing that feeling of ignition. And that then grew into like, it became so much where, again, like I was taking weeks off from my corporate job to manage this side hustle. And I was approached by a development group to open up a brick and mortar in a building that they had just built. So it was nothing at that time. And they asked me if I would be interested in opening up a deli or like an Italian market. And I was like, no, that's not what I do. But it wasn't no buy. It was no, but
Right.
let me think about it. Let me think about what would I do to if I had to expand Meet and Eat into a brick and mortar, what would that look like? So I meditated and I came up with this concept. So the concept is almost like a bougie Chipotle. It's made to order charcuterie. So you get to go in and pick what goes on your board, and we make it to order in front of you. It's connected to a wine bar. So you can sit and eat and drink wine. We also have beer and non-alcoholic options. We have a market, a local market, where we sell all local artisan stuff. And then we have the Western New York Cheese Academy, which is a space for all of the classes that I had been teaching. So now we have this experience. It's called Meet and Eat Charcuterie. It's in Larkinville. And I was able to quit. I was able to go from corporate to cheese, quit my job, and do this full time, and haven't looked back since.
What an amazing, like, first of all, the power of social media, like to be able to help catapult, your shift in career is amazing. And Larkinville, I think I've only been there once, but it feels like it has quite the presence now as well. I think Bratz Hill is there.
Yes.
The
Yeah. So
Plating Society.
Chef Darian, and I worked together during the pandemic as well.
Okay.
So he had asked me to do charcuterie for a lot of the events that he was doing. If
Oh,
anyone had
awesome.
ordered it, he would outsource it to me. So we started to build a partnership during the pandemic as well, even before we both went into Larkin. But I would have to say, the Zebsky family who's created
Yeah.
Larkinville, their level of commitment to the community is unmatched. There's a lot of incredible young entrepreneurs that have opened up lots of different, spaces. We have Blue Table Chocolates and Magic Bear Beer and Toasted and Lounge Shop, DA Taste. So there's a lot of really cool, it was almost as if the pandemic created a renaissance
Yeah.
of creators. And now we're all expanding and continuing to grow in this beautiful up and coming community.
That's amazing. What a beautiful thing. And I can't wait to dig more into this. This is just so fascinating. And just I think it's such a representation of like where we can be in 2025 and taking control of like our own careers and destiny. So I can't wait to chat further about this. We do like to do a little bit of an icebreaker. And we're focused on Western New York, so they have a little theme. So this week's is, are you drums or flats when it comes to wings?
Yes, I'm a drum girl for sure.
All
I
right.
like nice and meaty and just easier to eat, in my opinion, too. I don't really discriminate. Like I would go for both, but drums all the
Do you have a
way.
favorite wing spot?
Um, you know, really not known for their wings, but there's an Italian restaurant called Folletta's,
Oh,
and they do a poppy seed wing. So their
oh,
wings are done in their like famous poppy seed dressing, and it is one of my favorites. So like kind of off the beaten path of, not like the traditional Duff's or Anchor Bar.
yeah. Oh, producer Ken, that's a new one for us.
Yeah, check
Yeah,
it out.
haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. All
Oh,
right.
they're so good.
Oh my gosh. All right, we're gonna check that out. Producer Ken, I think I know your answer, but I'll let you give one.
Well, the answer is that I just don't discriminate. All wings are created equal and all are delicious.
That's right.
I'm with you though, Kristen. I'm a drum girl. I just think they're easier to eat.
For sure.
I'm always like hands off the drums. Well, thanks for that. We're having some fun with the Western New York theme. So, I have to ask, branching out on your own. I mean, it's overwhelming, but then you make this huge shift from corporate to Meet and Eat. How have you kept that from feeling absolutely overwhelming?
I don't know that I truly have. I will also throw in that I was getting divorced at the time
Oh
as well.
gosh.
So I actually signed the divorce papers in June and left M&T in July and opened up the brick and mortar in April, and now we're a year out from
Yeah.
that. So I would say therapy was incredibly helpful, like having a good therapist to sort of help sort through all of the feelings,
Yep.
imposter syndrome, you know, the transformation that my kids were going to be experiencing. I'm a mom too, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that level of transformation, believing in myself, believing in my own like knowing and intuition and capabilities, time management. I mean, there's anxiety. There's so many things that my therapist helps me with to help keep myself going and grounded.
Mhm.
And then, so that's part one. And then I would say part two is not doing it alone. I mean, surrounding yourself with really smart, supportive people
Yep.
that can help you. I mean, my first thought was I need to talk to every restaurant owner in Buffalo that is doing something similar and ask them for help.
Yeah.
And what are the resources that are available to me? Who are the other people in the area that I can lean on to help guide me through this process? And that was, people at M&T, people in Larkin, the restaurant owners that I identified as just mentors or people that I wanted to emulate.
Mhm.
And then my own friends and family who sort of carried me and helped as we went along as well. So their support, really fueled my ability to make it to the finish line for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I love how you reached out to those who are doing something. I think a lot of times people are afraid to go for what may be perceived competitors to ask questions of, but if they're out there doing it and doing it successfully, there's probably a reason for that. So I think that's amazing. That's great advice.
Yeah. So first of all, Buffalo is a city of good neighbors, and I think the restaurant community is incredibly helpful, kind, caring, and just wants to see the city succeed. And I also think truly believe in community over competition. That's one of my values.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's enough to go around, and I tried to, even in the beginning when I first started, local collaborations was really how I was able to grow a following. And I would host a lot of my classes in restaurants, like after the pandemic when
Mhm.
people weren't going there anymore, right? And
Yeah.
it was to help drive business and to shed light. So I would sell out tickets at 50 people at a time. Um, so I would bring 50 people to a restaurant and I would call them restaurant takeovers. And I would
Yeah.
encourage the people who are coming to my class to purchase a drink or to, you know, spend their money at that restaurant during a day
Yeah.
that it was dead. So I sort of started to give back to that community without being asked to. And I think that was the return,
Yeah.
because of that. And then I also created a Western New York charcuterie community on Facebook because there's a lot of us in the area that actually do it. I also, my first big job was for Shays, and I needed to do, I believe it was 2,000 cups for their VIP, 2,000 charcuterie
Oh my
cups,
gosh.
which is a lot
Yeah.
of materials and time and energy. And I didn't have employees. It was just me and
Yeah.
maybe my mom and sister at the time. So what I did was I rallied all the other charcuterie people in the area and divvied up the cups so that each of them could put their brand on it,
Oh, what an amazing idea.
and allowed them to come with me and create the cups and like split the work basically. So it's really like building relationships with those people and doing a lot of like giving to get
Yeah.
back.
That is actually what a way to build up a community around you. Like you're giving back as much as you're receiving, and I think um, that's a forgotten. I hate to say art form, but it's a forgotten piece of business. Like people are so worried about competition and who's coming out first. But if you rally people around you, everybody succeeds. And I think that was a beautiful way for you to give back to the community as well.
Thank you. I think it really has to do with your mindset. So
Yeah.
what I've witnessed is if you're coming from a scarcity or from a space of lack, that's when you start to view things as territorial because I don't know, it could be maybe you're so dependent on what's going on and you're so worried about being able to make ends meet or whatever it might be,
Yep.
that you're operating from this space of there's never enough. I find myself just naturally always working from a space of abundance where there's enough to go around for me and for everybody else. And I found that like the minute my mentality switches to that, the most beautiful things and the most beautiful connections and the most beautiful opportunities come my way. So always operate from abundance and not from lack. And you can always tell who when I'm collaborating with somebody or want to collaborate, I can always tell where they're coming from too. And that's how I decide who I'm going to work with.
I love that. And I think that just speaks volumes also to how in tune you are with yourself, right? Like what fuels you to be the best version of yourself, and surrounding yourself with others who have that same mindset. So I think that's also just a great reminder of making sure you're taking a step back and always staying true to yourself and that authentic self. It's so easy, I think, to step away from that, especially when you're, just trying to succeed. But what a beautiful just way to go about life, honestly. Yeah, everything seems so. I sometimes use the word scrunchy, like everybody is so, upset at every little thing. And, I think if you take that step back and put your mind into that abundance framework, you just feel better about the days.
Mm-hmm. And I think more comes to you. It's out because if you're spending, I guess it's like the quote, worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. And I feel like the more you worry about what's not happening, like you're taking up space to give yourself the ability to like create that abundance or to seize the opportunities that might be right in front of you or to make those connections or to make, like people want to collaborate with you when you are willing to give to them too, right? Like,
Yep.
so I've always found that that's been the best way to approach it. And the most, it also keeps you sane. We were talking about the overwhelmingness, right? It's like, I don't have capacity for lack and scarcity. I don't have capacity for drama. I don't have capacity for, territorial or like any sort of dramatic relationships. Like I only have space. I only have so much emotional capacity. So I choose to spend it in that area.
Well, that's smart. The other stuff is exhausting. Like you're already tired.
Yeah, we don't got time for that.
No, there's no time for any of that. I agree with you. Well, just thinking about how you did shift from that corporate to entrepreneurial life, what are some words of advice or things that you would tell somebody if they're like, I think I want to branch out on my own. I think I want to take a leap. What are some of your thoughts and words of guidance that you would give there?
So a few things. First, let's start with the financial standpoint, because I think a lot of people don't do it because they are afraid they're not going to be able to afford to pay their bills. That's a very real thing.
Yep.
So what I typically recommend is you either, let's say you're in a corporate job right now, you either save up the money to be able to give yourself at least a year to be able to test and learn with the business. Which then leads me to like progress over perfection. I think a lot of people talk themselves out of it because they feel like if they're going to make that move, it has to be the perfect end state.
Yep.
For me, I've been treating it as like a science project. In this year, I'm just going to play and have fun and analyze it at the end of the year. I'm not going to change a thing. I'm just going to see how it goes and then measure and shift and change in order to hit the goals after the fact, if that makes sense. I know it sounds a little like backwards, but I think that's what really allowed me, like it took the pressure off.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try it. Like, I'm just gonna have fun. And if it doesn't work, I'll go back to banking. Okay. Like failure is great. Failure is learning. Failure is like allowing you to evolve it into what it's supposed to be versus deciding that this is what it is. And if it's not this, then the world's going to be on fire. Like, you can't go into it like that.
Yep.
So either, save because you're going to do it, or work in a field that's going to pay you to get educated and make you better at the thing that you want to do. So if I could go back, banking obviously helped me in a lot of different ways. And I would do it all over again if I could. However, it might have been cool to work at a winery, to work at a Wegmans cheese shop, to work at Lactalis, to work at a major wine distributor. If I worked there, I could get paid to learn that side of the business and then take that learning and grow my business further because of that. So I always tell people, like, if you need the money before you can really jump, then go into a field that's going to challenge and grow you to make this side grow too.
That's smart.
Yeah. So I think it's that. The second thing I think is, I guess that was too, like the failure thing I think is really important. Like leveraging your network in a way that allows you to get the objections out of the way first. So I always tell people, like, if you look at your network and the people around you, so not just your work network, but also your family support and your friend support. If you split those three groups into sections, and one section is an objectors, the second is supporters, and the third is hype people.
Yep.
Take the idea that you like, the idea of what you want to create, and take it to the objectors first. So you need to invite like the most curmudgeon-y people you possibly can, and have them poke every hole they can into the idea, because that gets that out of the way. Because what happens is most people, okay, so let's say I'm in banking, right? I'm making 6 figures, and I'm going to go to my spouse and say, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go do this thing. Right? And they look at you like, wait a minute, what? Now, if I called my sister and told her that, she would say, yes, let's go, boom, do it. If I take it to her first, I'm going to get so hyped up that when the spouse comes along and pops the balloon, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So you have to embrace those objections and use the objections to help formulate the idea further, so that you can then take it to the supportive group of people, and the supportive group can help you problem solve and help you connect the dots and help you like take the leap.
Yeah. I love that.
So I think that's another thing I would say. And then the third thing I would say is just do it. Just do it. Life is too short. There's always something else you can do. Like, if you are savvy enough to be an entrepreneur, then you're savvy enough to like do something different if this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And being able to face that adversity of it doesn't work, that it didn't work, that's okay. Like, if you go into it with that mentality, then you're golden.
Yep.
Because I think we, again, are so afraid to fail, or we're so afraid to, like, I just don't feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of that.
You learn so much if something doesn't work out.
Yeah, it's just a lesson. It's a
just a
lesson. And it's an indication that you need to level up.
Yep.
So to me, making a mistake or failing is an indication or a red flag or something that says, Kristen, you need to do something different here to make this better.
Yep.
So either I need to educate myself better, I need to find the right people, I need to creative problem solve, whatever it might be. So failures are blessings because they help you level up.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. There's I actually hired him as a coach in one of my pivots that I'm doing with my company. I was like, I need help. And so I sought after a coach, and his tagline is "Fail Forward." So and it's so true. It's, every time you fail, you're moving the needle forward somehow because you've learned something from it. So it's just, it's just incredible. Well, I love that. I also love, having those people who can poke holes in every single thing, because if you only have cheerleaders behind you, then you're missing out like on a whole another set of people who are helping you grow by poking holes into concepts and ideas.
Yeah. And I think the key to that is the separating what's personal and what is constructive.
Yep.
Because even the holes might be, and this is where, again, therapy can help you, right?
Yeah.
But the hold might be, that's never going to work. Okay. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Yeah.
This person cannot predict the future. This person doesn't know everything.
Yep.
And sometimes if I hear that, I might say, okay, so if it were you, how would you solve that? Or what would you do differently?
Yeah.
Or, give me 3 ways that you can do X, Y, and Z. But the purpose is you could almost hold like an objections clinic where you bring them all in the same room and they can feed off of each other and tell
Yeah.
you all the negative things, and you write them all down literally,
Yeah.
and then you thank them for their service. And then you take that list to the supportive people and you say, okay, supportive people, let's brainstorm how we're going to fix these things.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because the idea is happening, whether or not these people want it or not.
Yeah.
Whatever their opinion might be, it's still going to happen.
Yep.
I also tell people, like, the only thing that is consistent in entrepreneurship for me is my drive.
Yep.
It is my drive to get up every single day. The money is not consistent. It's like my cash flow, not consistent.
Right.
What we're doing every day, not consistent. All the there's so many things that are chaotic, and the only thing that's like a nice, straight, stable line is my drive to get up every single day and keep going and figuring it out.
Yep. Yep. I think that's important because I think that's what some people miss is, you start, you get excited, and then when something happens, to your point, it could be financial where, your revenue is going up and down, but you just have to keep consistent and keep your drive and energy, and that stuff will figure itself out. But if you don't keep showing up for yourself and keep that same level of drive and, sit in that driver's seat, then, that's when you're not going to be successful, is when you start to, lose that drive and excitement for what you're doing.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. And sometimes it's tough. We all get that.
Yeah, no, it happens. I mean, I've been in the fetal position. I've cried. I've wanted to quit. I have said, what the hell did I do? I mean, there's been a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yep.
But again, it's the supportive people that come out of the woodwork to say, like, first of all, it's like the clients and the following that show up and keep me going and keep that demand coming, right? So there's that group. Then there's like my family and my friends and partners and everybody else who are like helping with the emotional component of what's happening. There's the therapist that's helping me move things through, right? So it's like building this advisory team of personal and business. And I think in the corporate world, we're taught to keep those things completely separate, right? It's like your work is here and your home is here, and they do not collide.
Yep.
Where with entrepreneurship, like, you are this, you are all of it.
Yep.
It is personal and your business, and they are one.
Yep.
So I think that's a big shift. Like for me, I was always who I was, even in the corporate world too. So I never really followed that. But at the end of the day, I think that helps with the overwhelm, is just the people who can kind of lift you up when you're ready to stop.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I have to say, I feel maybe a crying session on the couch may have occurred, more than once in the past year, because it's just tough.
It's tough. It's hard out here. And also I think just the burnout, like, I don't think people realize, like, in the beginning, especially, that it was just me doing everything. You are everything. You are HR, you are the lawyer, you are this, you are that, you are process improvement, and your heart and soul is really going into it, right? So if you get a bad review, or if something doesn't go right, or if somebody gets sick, it's like, I don't have anyone to fill in.
Yep.
And I feel like what I'm learning too is this is it's art. So it's really hard to duplicate me, and it's hard to duplicate my skill set. So I've been learning to lean on people for the other things, like the prepping and the administrative stuff, and, finding people who are good at what I'm not good at.
Yep.
I just want to play with meat and cheese. So if I could do that, all these other things, like, farm it out so that I can invest my time and energy into that piece of it.
I love that. And hey, tap me in. I've been known to make a charcuterie board or two. Nothing near like how you have, but
I would love to see. You got to send it to me. I would love to see them.
Oh, I'll send you a couple of pictures. Probably the one that I had the most fun with is somebody challenged me to do just a chocolate board. And so
That's fun.
that was
Love
fun.
that.
But yeah, so well, awesome. I love this advice, and this also shows. I keep telling everybody, and I've been trying to instill this in my daughter. She's 19. I'm like, you can be anything you want to be in life. Like, you don't have to go prescriptive to what a job description is. Go write your own and go do what makes you happy. So,
And I think that can also show up in a corporate job.
I agree.
So
Yep.
when I first started at M&T, like I said, I felt like our former CEO, Bob Wilmers, called me a peacock in a sea of penguins.
Oh,
But he said that was my superpower because I didn't have a Harvard degree. I did not finances and data stressed me out. But I was really good with people. I was a great communicator. Like I needed to know enough about myself and my strengths to be able to apply them in banking.
yep.
And then once I did that, I started to entrepreneur banking. I
Yeah.
started a podcast called Meet and Talk. It was an internal podcast where I interviewed our executives and made our bankers feel more connected to what was going on across the bank. I did that off the side of my desk, and it ended up completely changing how we communicated.
I love that.
And I did it because I was passionate about it. I saw a gap,
Yep.
and I just seized the
Yep.
opportunity. So I do think that you can leverage and create whatever you want,
Yep.
whether it's corporate or as an entrepreneur.
Yep. I agree. And I think organizations, especially when it helps culture, they're so receptive into, taking on new ideas and, trying it, especially if something that could give back to the team members in such a great way. So I think there's just the reception for a lot of that right now.
Yeah, and even just getting a nice view of the different types of projects that are going on around the organization, because maybe there's something that speaks to you.
Yep.
Like when you think about banking, you don't realize that there's an entire marketing or creative division to it.
Yep.
Something like communication, something like employee resource group that you can get involved with. Even doing Zelle, Zelle, when I helped launch Zelle, it was a really cool, innovative payment platform that needed my skill set in order to, launch.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know that if I didn't network and if I didn't ask, like,
Yeah.
what do you have going on in your department that might be cool for me to work on?
Yeah.
So it's just that's all you have to do is ask.
Yep. Oh, I love that. Yes. Okay, so speaking of podcasts, you have a podcast called Boards and Bosses, which I've listened to. It is fantastic.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this started, it was celebrating my 4th year in business. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do to celebrate. And I have met so many incredible female entrepreneurs, CEOs that have lifted me up, that I've chatted with, that I've helped, that have helped me. So I hosted this celebration and invited all women entrepreneurs and business owners to my space. And I put out all different charcuterie boards, and I called it Boards and Bosses. And it was just such a fun, successful event.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a minute, this could be something.
Yeah.
Like, I want to continue to meet with these women. But then there was also this piece of me from M&T that I missed, which was being a podcast host. I hosted, it was called Meet and Talk, and that was our internal podcast for our bankers. It was something that lit me up, and I'm like, how can I work in that component into what I'm doing with charcuterie? So I came up with a concept of interviewing these women while making a charcuterie board, but then also tying their journey and their story into the elements of the charcuterie board that they're making. So the wooden board is the foundation. So that's your story and how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
The hard cheese, that's the hard things you've gone through. The soft cheese, the emotional things. The meat is the business advice. And then the accompaniments are the unexpected, beautiful things that you've learned along the way. And every owner has a story like that.
Yeah.
And then once they curate the board, I could sell that in the shop as, we can call it the name of the business or whatever it might be. But yeah, we're on our 6th episode, and it's continuing to grow as its own brand. I also did a live podcast at the Women's Wellness Summit that Kaleida Health put on recently, where we interviewed, bosses that were in the wellness industry live. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I just think it's building a community of safe, supportive women without like asking them for anything. I think there's a lot of women's groups that I love and I think are great. But there's always something that you either have to pay to be in it.
Yep.
You have to give your product. And it's like, I don't have anything left to give right now. I just want friends. Like I want like friends that are in the same, space or phase of life
Yep.
that I can connect with and that understand what I'm going through. And that's it.
I love that.
I don't need to pay
Yep.
you to be my friend.
So
that's
I love it. They're great episodes. We'll put a link in the show notes for our show. And I love the concept. I love how you tie it back to the hard and soft cheeses. It's just it's great. It's a fun show. So and I love how it came about. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what about, so you mentioned networking to some degree, any other, and I love how you just said that. I do not want to pay for friends. Like, and you're right. There are so many networking, organizations out there where you have to pay. Any other advice for going out to grow your network for people who might be just, starting?
Yeah, I think there's, so starting with the one that you have and
Yep.
nurturing the one that you have, whether it's hosting something yourself, or, offering to find unique ways to connect and collaborate. I always try to find the people who are like one step, complementary to me. So, for me, it might be someone, a wine expert, a cheese expert, somebody who does jam, somebody who makes the boards. It's like all the little adjacent businesses to what I'm doing. Let's start with them and bring them all together so that we can all support each other. So like I like to almost think of myself as the board of the charcuterie board when it comes to networking, because I am the one who gathers people and makes those connections. I also think like through LinkedIn and through Instagram, you can build a community of people that have the same interests as you do or are in a field that you might be interested in that you want to learn more about. I also try to find things that are like inspiring or that I could use the model for. Like, as an example, I had a woman come in and she was telling me about a candle company that she owns, and the way about like going about this candle company, I'm like, I could probably apply a lot of that to charcuterie.
Yeah.
So it's always thinking outside the box and trying to find the people who might like, how can we benefit each other and how can we help each other in the most genuine way possible? And from like, again, a space of abundance. I also think going to the people in your field and trying to, or in your industry and trying to create community there. Again, referring business to them if you can't do something. That to me is like the number one way to build your network.
Yep.
If I say to myself, if someone calls me and I can't do something because I'm going on vacation, instead of just saying no and leaving them hanging to dry, I can say, you know what, you should try Simply Sliced. She's really great. I've had her charcuterie before. She'll get it done for you. And then you're now referring business to someone in your industry. The person's happy. They saw another one. They're happy that you didn't leave them hanging.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're building this relationship with someone who's in your field and you're showing you that's like, I'm not territorial. It's okay. We can be friends. And then she might call me and say, hey, I'm all out of bamboo plates. Do you have any? I'm struggling, or hey, blah, blah, blah. Right. So that's always worked for me when it comes to networking, is it like being the epicenter and also giving as much as you're getting back.
Yeah, those are great words of advice. And it's, again, I go back to that, finding people in that same industry and just building relationships and trust. And, I go back to people feel like so competitive, and it's really just opening up and, supporting one another versus it, being anything negative. And I love that. And I love how much you do that in the community.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah, for sure. All right. So, my part of my mission with this series is to make sure that our global audience really gets to see and shine on Western New York, just how great our community is. So what's one thing that you would like our audience to know about Western New York from your perspective?
I think what's just based off of like what I've been talking about and
Yeah.
saying, that Western New York is one of the most helpful, friendliest city of good neighbors that you could ever imagine. If you are in a pinch, if you need help, I mean, even if you, especially in the restaurant community, you see restaurants closing, you see restaurants
Yeah.
struggling, you see someone breaking in, like we are the first to rally to help that group out. Someone, I think recently, like a window was broken or something like that, and a lot of other restaurants pitched in to help purchase a new window for them. Or if you have a piece of equipment that's dead and you're like, oh no, what do I do? Someone's like, hey, try this guy.
Yeah.
Like he's great and he's going to help you. So I think there's just this, we have such big hearts and so generous, and we have so much to give. And we also are a community of really talented creators, especially in the food industry.
Yep.
I look around at some of our restaurants and I can't even tell you like how incredibly creative
Yep.
the food is, how wonderful the food is. And like that individuality and that uniqueness, I think is really incredible, because you go to these other cities and you see very corporate chained places.
Yeah.
In Buffalo, I feel like it's like our souls are out of our bodies. We want to share that with everybody.
And it's so true. It's just an amazing community, and it's so fun to see people come together when there's a need. Like I'm not sure there's another place like it on the globe.
No, not that I've seen.
Yeah.
And people, I know when I go to other cities, people are so shocked at how I react or what I
Yeah.
do and how I do it. They're like, this doesn't happen in New York, the city. This doesn't
Yep.
happen in Pittsburgh. So
Yep. I agree. Okay. What's one thing that you want to make sure our listeners know about yourself?
that I am like genuinely excited to help share the wealth and help you on your journey to entrepreneurship or whatever it might be. I love listening. I love help. I love to give. I'm
Yeah.
like a service-based person. So if there is somebody out there who is trying to make the leap, I don't gatekeep. I will give you everything I know and then cheer you on and support you and help you grow into the beautiful thing that I know you can be.
Aw, I love that, and it just goes back to speak volumes about being from this community and how much we like that gets instilled in who we are, and you're a great representative of that for our Western New York community.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you are doing this. I think this whole thing is fantastic. And I'm excited to see where this goes too. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And, there's so many amazing people in Western New York, just like Kristen. And I am so happy that you were able to join us. I know it's a busy season, and I know there's a lot going on. So do know that I value your time and appreciate it. And really, thank you for being a Western New York changemaker and just really showcasing to the world how great our community is.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you being here. Producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
Thanks, Karen.
And to Go Art, our community art center here in Batavia, for continuing to support us. Through the use of a grant, we're able to use their studio and their facilities, and we truly appreciate the ongoing community support. Again, it speaks volumes to the way that everyone rallies around each other here in the community. So thank you to everyone. And again, thank you to all of our listeners. If you've been here for a while, thank you for coming along with us. If you're new, welcome, and we're glad you joined us. Kristen, thank you, and have a great night.
You too.